In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. Dr. Martin Luther King was in Memphis on the day of April 8, 1968. He had gone to Memphis, Tennessee, to support African American sanitation workers who were on strike. Black sanitation workers in that city were protesting economic inequality in light of federal civil rights legislation, which had been passed in 1964. That law outlawed discrimination based upon race. The sanitation workers were protesting their low wages compared to that given to white workers for the same jobs. That difference was clearly race-based, and thus it was illegal. The 1968 attempt on the part of Dr. King reflected his growth. Dr. King had climbed out of the domestic box he had been restricted by. He had changed. He had sketched in his mind a greater political perspective. No longer did he think that civil rights alone would remedy the poverty crisis gripping Black America. He came to realize that desegregation and consumer rights to spend our money in white supremacist stores would only make our economic situation worse by permanently solidifying us in a consumer role here in the United States. He grew into an understanding that economic parity was needed to level the playing field for Black people in the United States. The sanitation workers' strike stoked that belief and made him ready to walk with them. Dr. King had also broadened his understanding of the relation between the Vietnam War and our quality of life here in the United States. Some years ago, Tavis Smiley and David Ritz state in a book they wrote entitled Death of a King that a 1968 poll revealed that 50% of African Americans felt that Dr. King was irrelevant. Dr. King did not mind that. His motivation was not rooted in opinion polls. Now, it just so happened that because Dr. King spoke out against the evils of the Vietnam War and the economic waste caused by it, he had been virtually abandoned by thousands of those who had walked with him for over 10 years. The media attacked Dr. King's anti-Vietnam War stance. He learned that historically, since World War I, the owners of mainstream media had always been pro-war because they profited from war. And so he expected no less than attacks from the mainstream media. By 1968, he had no political support because both the Democratic and Republican parties were pro-war. Those same political parties in Congress are pro-war to this very day, minus a handful of House of Representatives and senators. Major white and Black Christian congregations had also withdrawn their support because of his anti-war stance. And never forget, the Black Baptist Convention had never supported Dr. King in his efforts to uplift African Americans. But some men with authentic knowledge and passion for justice, like Dr. King, were there with him. Those few men and women stood with him. They all knew that the driver for positive social change for Black Americans was, as it is today, a moral imperative. Those same issues Dr. King raised in 1968 are front and center today, especially for descendants of American slavery. Dr. King wanted reparations for descendants of American slavery. And thus today, reparations, war, waste, and social justice are central issues facing us in the current socio-economic and political scheme. It just so happens that since 1964, the United States has been in an undeclared war for at least 30 years. Since 1964, let me repeat that. The United States has engaged in warfare for 30 years. The cost for the Vietnam War in today's dollars was $1 trillion, and in lives, over 50,000 Americans and 2 million Vietnamese citizens. The monetary waste and social injustice experienced by descendants of American slaves at home and abroad continues to this day more than ever before. While at the same time we continue our wait on Congress to pass a Reparations Act for descendants of American slavery. The reasons for descendants of American slavery not having received reparations as ordered by Abraham Lincoln is not because the United States does not have the money. America, the United States, the federal government, gives away billions of dollars every year in foreign aid. Foreign aid and war expenditures prove that the United States government does have the monetary means to pay us reparations. Thus, the reasons for us not receiving reparations are clear. Descendants of slavery are not on the congressional to-do list, nor has there ever been a president after Abraham Lincoln interested in doing justice, giving remedy to the dehumanizing conditions that our ancestors were subject to under slavery. We are not important to them because we are descendants of slaves. While other foreign white ethnic nations with long histories of being white supremacists are given priority, they are literally given our reparations money. The United States Agency for International Development, for instance, has given away billions of tax dollars to foreign white supremacist ethnic groups every year. For example, since 1946, $1 trillion has been given away to foreign nations. There is also a mission statement I'd like to read to you and dissect. It states the mission and vision of the United States Agency for International Development. It reads as follows, and I quote, "Our mission, meaning the American people, on behalf of the American people, we promote and demonstrate democratic values abroad. We know that is false. America does not promote democratic values abroad, but instead promotes the establishment of puppet regimes that can be easily economically manipulated. Continuing, and advance a free, peaceful, and prosperous world. We know that is not true. America, the United States, and other nations are responsible for the sale of weapons to dictators all over the world, which undermine efforts for peace and economic prosperity, and use sanctions that have resulted in the deaths of millions of innocent people." And I continue. In support of America's foreign policy, the U.S. Agency for International Development leads the United States government's international development and disaster assistance through partnerships and investments that save lives. Note the word investments. What that means is that corporate America is the power behind the throne, with one objective only: to exploit undeveloped nations throughout the world and to create debt burdens that those nations cannot climb out of. For example, let's look at foreign aid again. As I stated, since 1946, $1 trillion has been given away to foreign nations. And here I have a graphic, and you can see the total assistance that has been awarded since 1946. Israel at the top, as well as India, have received billions of US dollars And both of those nations are white supremacist nations. We are giving foreign aid away to nations that have governments that suppress, that oppress, that repress people of color, and have been doing so from their inception. The cost of war is another example. Since we have been in Afghanistan and Iraq, we have given away to corporate America and dictators $16 trillion. So $16 trillion added to the $1 trillion spent in Vietnam, along with the foreign aid, comes to a total of over $17 trillion. And yet we are not given reparations. We are still knocking on the door, as Dr. King would be knocking on the door demanding reparations for us. The only conclusion we can draw from these facts is that the federal government does not take American descendants of slaves seriously. Justice is continually delayed for us because we are not on the congressional to-do list. Yet, foreign governments are granted our reparations money by Congress while we, citizens, are humiliated by homelessness and reduced to begging on the streets of America. Dr. Martin Luther King was right to demand economic equity for descendants of slaves because he realized that without it, we will always be, in some form or another, modern-day sharecroppers. The ongoing economic injustices committed against American descendants of slavery stem from a long history of maliciousness directed at us and the entrenched religion and its dogma of white supremacy. We demand that Congress legislate law to give us monetary reparations equal to what has been wasted over the last 20 years on needless wars and given in foreign aid to white supremacist nations. We are not asking you, we are demanding it from you. We demand it now so that we can be free. Free at last. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.
I really enjoyed this video, and I hope you did as well. If you enjoyed Stephen's talk, please support this channel, thumbs up, and share this video. And please do not forget to subscribe.